Good morning. We're just going to give a moment for folks to come in from the waiting room and connect to audio so that they can hear us. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, September 26th, 2023. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the city of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman of the Board, Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you, Danny. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Boston Licensing Board, and today with me is Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you very much. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. I will call each item in the order that it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record, and the licensee or their representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. Again, all testimony will be limited only to those individuals with firsthand personal knowledge of the alleged incident. Beginning with the first item on this morning's agenda, calling item number 1, Old Trafford Inc. doing business as Paradise, located at 967 Commonwealth Ave. Date of the incident, March 23rd, 2023, an overserved, intoxicated patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With us this morning, Patrick Declan Megan, who's the manager of record, Joseph Dunn, also in the ownership structure of this licensee, and Bill Guerra, who was the manager on record and who signed the inspection notice on the night in question. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us. I see all three. Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Hi, good morning, Sergeant Detective John Fitzgerald, District 14, Boston Police Department.
Thank you, Sergeant Fitzgerald. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you, Sergeant Fitzgerald. If you could please proceed with reading the police report into the record.
Yes, about 9:09 p.m. on Thursday, March 23rd, 2023, Officer Burke in the Kilo 414 Frank unit responded to a radio call for an unconscious female in the bathroom at the Paradise Rock Club, 967 Commonwealth Ave in Brighton. The Kilo 980 Sergeant Detective Fitzgerald, myself, and Kilo 908 Sergeant Murphy also responded. Staff had called 911 when they discovered a female unresponsive, excuse me, on the floor in the bathroom. Staff stated they were eventually able to get the female victim, later identified as Gabriela Sanchez, date of birth of 7/2/2003, up, and she was able to walk outside to a bench outside the establishment where she was met by officers. Boston EMS and Boston Fire were also on scene. Sanchez, who was responsible and able to sit up with assistance, was unable to keep her eyes open and was very sluggish. Boston EMS Alpha 09 transported Sanchez to Beth Israel Hospital for further evaluation. A friend who was with Sanchez stated that someone was passing around a blunt in the pit of the dance floor, and Sanchez had smoked too much of it. The Kilo 908 and Kilo 980 conducted a code 35 on the establishment and issued citation number 008502.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
If I may, Sergeant Detective, your inspection notice indicated that it was staff who called 911, is that correct?
Yes.
And that they cooperated with you?
Yes, they did.
And just when you arrived, you have no personal knowledge of this individual taking any alcoholic beverages.
No, not that I was aware of, no.
And is the only circumstance that would suggest her impaired nature this statement about the smoking of a blunt on the dance floor?
The only evidence of it?
I mean, the only statement of any impairment would be that
Yes,
statement
yes,
by the friend, right?
yes, by a friend.
Okay. And any further investigation of this turn up any question of her being served alcohol in the night in question?
No, we made a brief, sweep of the area in where she was, the ladies' room. We had other patrons leave and didn't see any remnants of any kind of drugs or alcohol or anything of that nature.
Thank you, sir. If I may, Madam Chair, may I just inquire of Mr. Guerra, who was the person who signed the inspection notice? Yes?
Sure.
Yes, thank you very much. Bill, you've already been sworn. Just state your name for the record and your title with the licenses premise.
Bill Guerra, Operations Manager.
And were you present on the night in question?
I was.
And did this incident come to your attention?
Yeah.
And what occurred?
Basically is exactly as stated in the police report. I was called down by security, notified that there was a female discovered in the bathroom unconscious. By the time I got downstairs, staff had already called EMS. I called 911 and they were on the way. And by this point, the young woman was being escorted out onto the sidewalk and seated on the bench outside the venue. EMS and police arrived.
Any indication that you observed or staff observed this individual had been served at the premises?
No, she had X's on her hands. It was an all ages event. And so we X anyone coming in who is not 21. There was no one had suggested, her friend did not suggest, no one suggested that she had been drinking at the venue at all.
The friend did suggest that she may have smoked something that caused her to lose her consciousness.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Guerra. Mr. Megan, the manager of record, Mr. Dunn, do you guys have anything to add?
No.
We're good. Thank you. Thank you. The chair of the members may have some questions for you.
Thank you. So this happened in the pit, is that right? Is that where people said she was seen smoking?
It's oddly enough, and we've seen this before, the entire level that this person was on is open standing room only. There are no seats in the establishment except for special events which might be seated for a smaller show. So there is no pit as such. The entire floor is open and people stand. So
Okay. Can you describe the security in that specific area? How many people were there?
Sure, yeah. Normally on nights like this, we have one security guard standing on the sort of a landing for the staircase that's keeping the stairs clear and also keeping an eye on the floor. We also have guards positioned as sort of bookends on either end of the stage, keeping an eye on that, the center dance floor. And then we have roamers as well. So usually two to three roamers at a time walking through the area, trying to keep an eye on things.
And no one observed people smoking?
We did. We do at shows of this nature. We do observe smoking and we do our best to contain it, but it's difficult. The crowd is, a lot of people are lighting up and, we always try to, police it and tell them to put it out as often as we can, but sometimes it's a little tricky.
Okay, do you know how long she was there? Was she there the whole evening up until this point?
That I can't really say.
Okay, when you said they try to contain it, what the security tries to contain it, what does that mean exactly?
Essentially, anytime someone, either a roamer or someone on the stairs or someone in our barricade area, if we have a barricade up, anytime we see someone lighting up anything, whether it's a blunt or if it could be, some people try to vape inside the venue, and anytime that's observed, we always tell them, please put that out or we're going to have to ask you to leave.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Saxon.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Joyce. Anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. The
Thank
board
you.
will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2 has been continued to the next available hearing date. Calling item number 3, JAJB Inc. doing business as Tavern in the Square, Alston, located at 161 to 165 Brighton Ave in Alston. Date of the incident, March 24th, 2023. Patron injured on premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Attorney Green, thank you. My name's Bob Allen. I have a law practice at 300 Washington Street in Brookline. And with me is Max Rosen, the manager of record.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Frank McLaughlin, I'm a sergeant with the Boston Police.
Thank you, Sergeant McLaughlin. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you both please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant McLaughlin, if you could please read the police report into the record.
Lieutenant Troy is going to read it in. I'm actually homesick and I don't have the report with me, so I apologize. Lieutenant.
Yep, Lieutenant Troy, you have not been sworn in yet. Can you please raise your right hand?
I will indeed.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may please proceed.
This is Tavern in the Square.
Correct.
Reads as follows. About 12:52 on March 24, 2023, Officer Doe responded to the radio call for an unconscious person who fell inside 161 Brighton Avenue, Tavern in the Square. Also responding was Sergeant McLaughlin's Boston Fire Department, Boston EMS. On arrival, the security team at the bar pointed to the location where the victim at the bottom of the stairs near the bathroom. The victim was identified as Megan Michael, with date of birth of September 13, 2001. She was conscious at the time of interacting with all medical personnel and was able to speak coherently. The victim had a cut and was bleeding from her forehead on the right side. Officer Doe was told by friends that she had tripped on one of her friend's legs, but one of the security staff stated that she had fell down a short flight of stairs. The victim was given pressure dressing and walked upstairs to a stretcher and taken to Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital. Sergeant McLaughlin responded and conducted a Code 35 initiative violation. And there's a supplemental report here from Sergeant McLaughlin. It reads as follows. Officers responded to a 911 call for a person unconscious at Tavern in the Square. On arrival, officers observed the victim, Megan Michael, a Boston University student, being assisted onto a stretcher by EMS. Officers not able to get a straight story as how she had received a cut. The first story, she had tripped, and another story, she had fallen down the stairs. Miss Michael was having trouble speaking while she was in the ambulance. Sergeant McLaughlin was unable to tell for sure if this was due to alcohol consumption or the blow and gash that she had received to her head. As a result, a licensed premise violation was issued for patron being injured on the premises. The violation was issued by Sergeant McLaughlin. Chris McGee, the general manager on scene, signed, acknowledging receipt of the citation. That's the extent of the police reports.
Thank you, Lieutenant Troy. Attorney Allen, would you like to address the alleged incident?
I would. I don't have any questions for the officers, Attorney Green. Madam Chair, members of the board, I provided Attorney Green earlier today with an email with incident reports that we do as a matter of course. I suggest to you that what happened on this particular night is exactly the way you want bar owners to address this issue. Immediately, they called 911 as soon as they found the person was injured. EMS and the police showed up. They immediately did an incident report, which I've provided to this board. The woman herself, she did not provide any statements. However, her friend that she was with provided a statement which says, and I provided to you, we had a drink each, and while headed to the toilet, my friend tripped over my leg and missed a step and fell. I suggest to you that what had happened is she missed the steps, she tripped over her friend's leg, she had high heel shoes on, that was observed by our security guard, and she just tripped going down. To make sure that this was consistent, we found that there was a recording of a sale of 2 drinks to her and her friend on this particular night. So not only is the is the statement from the witness consistent, but the backup showing that they did only have one drink is consistent. I suggest to you that this is just an accident that happened. There's no violation of 138. And, it was handled the way you want these bar owners to handle it. Call the police and let them come in and do an incident report to make sure that you've done everything on your end. So I'm not sure there's much more that I can talk about, but I certainly have Max here. Unfortunately, Mr. McGee is out of state on vacation, something he didn't take all summer, so the timing was off, but Mr. Rosen did speak with him and can certainly answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Attorney. I haven't read the incident reports that you forwarded over to Attorney Green today, but I will. Would you happen to know how long this woman was in Tavern in the Square?
I don't know. Do you happen to know that, Max?
In speaking to Chris, we can't exactly say, but based off the course of the incident reports, having ordered one drink and then immediately making their way down to the bathrooms on the lower floor, I couldn't imagine it was more than 25 minutes.
The incident report was taken about 12:46, and the police report says 12:52, which is probably about the right time. So she might have been there an hour by the time she was walked in and walked out.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have questions?
I do not. Thank you.
None from me. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 4, Metro Dining Inc., located at 32 to 34 Harvard Ave in Alston, dated the incident April 28th, 2023. Overcrowded, no clicker, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.03J and 1.06A and F. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Carolyn Conway, 350 West Broadway. On behalf of the licensee, I have with me today Mr. Derek Brady and Ms. Kristen Beatty, who is the person in charge on the evening in question.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant McLaughlin.
Thank you, Sergeant McLaughlin. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you, Sergeant McLaughlin. If you could please proceed with the police report.
Could I again, I'm homesick with them, and I don't have any of the reports with me. Maybe Lieutenant Troy would have it.
Thank you. Lieutenant Troy, do you have this in your packet?
I do indeed, and previously been sworn.
Yes,
Thank
thank you.
The report reads as follows: about 1 a.m. on Thursday, April 28th, 2023, Sergeant McLaughlin, along with Officer Diaz, conducted a Code 35 draft bar at 32 to 34 Harvard Ave in Brighton. As officers parked across the street and approached the establishment, Officer Diaz activated his body-worn camera. As they were approaching, they observed a line to enter had been formed to the right of the front door. On the left, there were a number of people congregating. One of the staff was speaking loudly to a patron whom they appeared to have just removed from inside the bar. As the officers approached the front door, Sergeant McLaughlin told the doorman that he was there to check the licenses. He asked the doorman to see a clicker to check the number of people inside. He did not show a clicker, nor did he look at one, but he said that they had 175 people inside. The sergeant knew from past visits that the bar's maximum occupancy is exactly 175. Sergeant McLaughlin entered the establishment with Officer Diaz and immediately began to inspect and record the license numbers. When he finished writing the license premise form from the inside doorman come over. Sergeant McLaughlin asked him to see a clicker, and he said that there was 195 persons in there. Sergeant McLaughlin said that he was over the limit and changed the number. The doorman changed the number to 179. Sergeant McLaughlin told him that was still over the limit, and he took out a clicker, and he said it was 122. The place was clearly over 122 because it was wall-to-wall people. Sergeant McLaughlin informed the doorman that he had to have an accurate count on the clicker at all times. A license premise violation was issued for being overcrowded based on the sergeant's observations combined with multiple numbers that he was told by two different doormen. It was also noted on the violation, there was not a clicker present at the door, and the one they finally produced was clearly incorrect. Sergeant McLaughlin asked to speak to the manager on duty, who was identified as Kristen, who was directed me outside where I met, where Sergeant met Kristen. Sergeant McLaughlin explained that they were indeed needed to have an accurate count and a person with a clicker at the door at all times. He told Kristen that he was issuing a violation for being overcrowded based on the answers that he had been given and the observations he had made. She asked the sergeant if he would go through with the clicker and count how many people were in there. Sergeant McLaughlin told her that he would do that. He again explained to her that it was a responsibility for the person at the door to have an accurate count with the clicker. Kristen told Sergeant McLaughlin that she wanted it written down that he refused to go through and do a count. Sergeant McLaughlin informed her that it was all recorded on Officer Diaz's body camera. Kristen signed for the violation. She informed Sergeant McLaughlin that she was going to fire both of the doormen. Sergeant McLaughlin explained again that the bar had a responsibility to keep an accurate count so the officers can check when they show up for an inspection. Sergeant McLaughlin asked Officer Diaz in his opinion the size of the crowd, and he thought it was well over the allowed amount of 175. That's the extent of the police report.
Thank you, Lieutenant Troy. Attorney Conway, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, may I just ask one question from the Lieutenant Detective? Does the license premise violation indicate that the licensee cooperated with?
1 second,
The office.
Chair, and he can answer that.
Yes, it does. They
Okay,
did
thank you very
cooperate.
much. As the board will note, this was at the end of the, if you will, the college season last year, and admittedly, Thursday night is and we got a little bit overwhelmed on that night. Actually, the person who had the clicker had to help inside the licensed premises because of a scuffle that had happened. So when the police came, the person who had the clicker was not there, and the doorman tried to compensate in some way. We're not quite sure, but I assure the board that they have been let go. Since the start of the new school year, and as looking at it over the summer, we have new procedures in place. The first procedure is that we now have 3 doormen on the door. As soon as the doormen go on the door, they go through the licensed premises, they take their clickers out, and they take an accurate count of the people already in there. That's usually a very low number, but we make sure that the doormen all have the same number on their clickers, and they're all doing it. In addition, we have gotten headsets for each of the doormen so that they can talk to each other and that they know exactly what's going on. And there is designated a head doorman so that all the doormen know who they are reporting to. We also keep a doorman on the rear exit of the licensed premises who also has a headset. Nobody is allowed to enter with that rear exit, but that doorman is on the headset and is also being constantly told how much the capacity is and when it's met. We've instituted a new program to make sure that the aisles are always clear and that we are able to get people in and out of the licensed premises at all times. Since we've put in this new procedures, we've really had no problem, and it seems to be working pretty well since the students are back. The presence at the door seems to be working. The headsets have totally upped our communication skills, and we believe that we've gotten a much better handle on this. We don't intend to. We know that we have to keep it at 175.
Thank you, Attorney Conway. See if there are any questions from the board. Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
I have no questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
I do not, thank you.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The board will take this matter under advisement in that case.
Okay, we appreciate the board's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 5, Stage Karaoke LLC, located at 138 Brighton Ave in Alston, dated the incident April 29th, 2023. Overserved, patron removed by Boston EMS in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning again, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With us this morning is Henry Wong, the owner and manager of record, and if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Duc Nguyen, who's the individual who signed for the violation notice. Morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Who's present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Frank McLaughlin.
Thank you very much. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. And who will be reading the police report into the record?
Lieutenant?
Yes, happily.
Thank you.
Oops, there's a video. Okay, two separate reports here. The first one authored by Officer John Flaherty and reads as follows. At 10:21 p.m. on Saturday, April 29, 2023, Officer Flaherty responded to a radio call for an unconscious person at 138 Brighton Ave. On arrival at Stage Karaoke, officers spoke with EMS who were transporting victim Corey Boudreau, who was intoxicated, breathing, but not awake. Officers spoke to Mr. Boudreau's friend, John Keefe, who stated that he believed Boudreau may be allergic to fish when they ate that they ate for dinner and then proceeded to drink alcohol in the evening. Keefe stated that he believes Boudreau only had 2 beers and 2 mixed drinks at the bar. Keefe was unsure if Boudreau had anything to drink prior to arriving at the place before dinner. Mr. Boudreau was transported to St. Elizabeth's Hospital for further evaluation, and the patrol supervisor, Officer Sergeant McLaughlin, was notified. The second report, written by Sergeant McLaughlin, reads as follows. At about 12:30 a.m., Sergeant McLaughlin assisted Kilo 498 Officer Connolly with Stage Karaoke at 138 Brighton Ave for the purpose of issuing a license premise violation for over-serving a patron, Corey Boudreau, as detailed in the original report. On arrival, Officer Connolly activated his body-worn camera. Sergeant McLaughlin filled out the violation form for over-serving a patron. The manager on duty, Patrick Sweeney, the general manager on duty, identified himself as Mr. Nguyen. Mr. Nguyen stated that he was the person who had called the ambulance for the victim. As noted in the original report, the victim, Boudreau, had been transported from Stage Karaoke St. Elizabeth's Hospital for passing out, performing a second song on stage. While at District 14, the victim's friend, who identified himself as John Keefe, came into District 14 and spoke to Sergeant McLaughlin. He said that he did not want Stage Karaoke to get in trouble for his friend's situation. Mr. Keefe went on to explain that Boudreau had shown up at Mr. Keefe's house before going to the karaoke place. He said he had noticed that Boudreau was a little inebriated before he went to Stage Karaoke. He said he thinks Boudreau had a number of drinks before arriving at Stage Karaoke. Keefe said that when he got to Stage Karaoke about 8:30 p.m., the bar gave them a round of shots for Keefe's birthday. Keefe said that they also ordered another round of shots after the first one. According to Keefe, Boudreau had an amazing voice and that he was performing his second song on stage when he passed out. He described him as amazing virtuoso. He said that Boudreau looked like he stumbled a bit and that one of the bartenders said something about getting Boudreau some water before he passed out. While Sergeant McLaughlin and Officer Connolly were at Stage Karaoke, the general manager, Mr. Nguyen, said that Boudreau only had a few drinks while he was there. Sergeant McLaughlin explained that he would have the opportunity to explain his side before the board at a hearing. Sergeant McLaughlin also suggested that he preserve any video to back up the story. It's also noted that Stage Karaoke was very cooperative. That's the extent of the police reports.
Thank you, Lieutenant Troy. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
If I might, just Detective McLaughlin, did your report or the violation notice indicates that the management cooperated? It stated that in the police report. Those are correct, I presume?
Yes, that's correct.
And Mr. Nguyen, who's the person in charge that night, was the person who made the call to 911.
That's my belief, yes.
Okay. And just you or any other detective officers, it doesn't appear that anyone observed this individual consuming any alcoholic beverages.
I was notified about it. I was just coming on shift, and then I went down after the person was already gone when I did the license premise. Did not observe anything.
Okay, right. And I mean, it would appear that the establishment worked this correctly, if you will, and that they're the ones who called the police, got help for this individual, and stood by and assisted the police. Is that about what
Yes.
happened here? Okay, thank you. And I do want to note, Madam Chair, just so you have it, there is a video which will provide to you of this individual basically taking the stage, if you will, to singing literally in the middle of a song. He literally just backs up against the wall and appears to just phase out with no forewarning, etc. He walked up under his own steam, began to sing, and then literally in a few moments you'll see that he just slumped against the back wall and was on his feet, but was clearly not with it, if you will. Mr. Wong, do you have anything to add, or Mr. Nguyen?
No.
Is this individual, is he a regular by any chance?
He is. He's a regular.
Okay. All right. And has he been in since?
No, have not.
Okay. All right, the board may have some questions for you.
Thank you, Attorney Quilty. The police report says Keith said that when they got to stage karaoke around 8:30 p.m., the bar gave them a round of shots for Keith's birthday. Do you give out free shots?
No, not as in free shots. I believe he meant gave them a shot, meaning that he bought the shots. We don't give out shots.
Okay, then it says Keith said that they also ordered another round of shots after the first one. So you're saying he paid for both?
I believe he meant
they ordered both. That's
right.
Okay. So what kind of training does your staff have to recognize signs of intoxication?
They're all tip certified. And after this incident, I'll make sure that actually, I think Dennis, you have them. That
I have all the records of the tip certifications. I can provide those as well.
Right. This individual, he went within a minute and a half from singing and interacting with guests to just flat out on the floor. So he had no indication of he was that drunk. We believe he's not drunk from alcohol. Because he actually did not finish his drink. As he was going on to the stage, he handed his drink to someone else for him to go sing, and he was fine, and he was interacting with guests in the video. It's just a minute and a half later, and he was just gone.
Okay, do you have any receipts from this party that night?
This was a big party, a party of, I believe, 10 to 12 people. So it won't show that what he had.
Okay, and so is it
we can find the
testimony?
receipt.
So is it your testimony that the 2 shots were the only drinks he had there?
We cannot be sure because there was a lot of them. A lot of people going to the bar, and then they were from the bar to the table.
We can actually look and see if either of the names that we now know show up on a receipt.
We can find the receipt.
Keith or Boudreau, right? And those are the only names we have.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
the receipt
you
will
can do
be
a little
one,
research on that for the board. We would appreciate
the receipt will be one big receipt.
Oh, it would be one big receipt?
Right.
Okay, so
They're not, yeah.
if you could forward that.
Okay.
Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
How long is the video you're gonna submit?
It's
my watch is maybe a minute and change.
Do you have any video of Mr. Boudreau, more than a minute before he passed out?
I do not know. What I've seen would simply indicate it shows him leaving his table area, traversing across to the stage, walking onto the stage and begin singing. I mean, do we have anything prior to that, Henry?
Yes, we do. But
Okay.
it's basically shows the route about the same, that he was walking around talking to people.
Okay, well, we'll provide whatever we have that shows it.
Yeah, I'd like to see, not just the minute before he passed out, but sometime before he was served his last drink would be helpful.
Okay. Well, we do have a video of that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, the board will take this matter under advisement, and please do submit the requested videos, receipt, and I believe also tip certifications. I'll make sure that those are shared with the board.
Yes, will do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 6, AHL Group LLC, doing business as El Jefe's Taqueria of Northeastern, located at 269 Huntington Ave. Date of the incident, May 31st, 2023. Assault and battery, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. And assault by means of dangerous weapon, a firearm, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
John Shaw. I'm the managing member of AHL Group.
Thank you,
John
Mr.
Eller, John Eller, Director of Operations.
Thank you, Mr. Eller. Is it possible to turn your camera on so we can swear you in?
I believe it's on. I can log off and log back in, but the camera is definitely on. You cannot see me, I guess. I'll take.
We cannot see you at the moment. We'll give you a moment to try to get that squared away while we see who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department.
Police Officer Aaron Feeney.
Detective Eddie Hernandez wrote the supplement.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Thank you. Mr. Eller, it appears we're having connection issues with your camera. Can you please affirm to the board that you will raise your right hand when asked to do so?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Who will be reading the police report to the record? Is that Officer Feeney? Oh,
Yes, sir.
thank you. You may proceed.
About 3:06 a.m. on Sunday, May 28th, 2023, Officer Feeney and La Rosa in the Delta 103 Alpha respond to a radio call for shots spotter activation at 280 Huntington Ave, Boston. Officers were assisted by the Delta 912 Sergeant Sullivan, Delta 101 Alpha, Grachowski and Galvin, Delta 105 Enriquez and Jenner, Delta Gold 1 McDonough and Doherty, Delta 421 Hassan, Delta 499 Nina, and Delta 441 Mahoney. Channel 5 operations advised officers that after the shot spotter activation, several 911 calls were received reporting gunshots fired in the area of 280 Huntington Ave. Upon arrival, officers located ballistic evidence in the immediate area along with the ballistic damage to the passenger side of black-colored 2017 Mercedes sedan bearing Mass Reg Mike Sierra Tango Alpha X-ray X-ray parked outside of 277 Huntington Avenue. Officers spoke with the registered owner, Macario Luis Calvo Johnson. He stated he was in El Jefe's Taqueria located at 269 Huntington Ave when he observed two groups of females fighting outside. Johnson stated he then heard a noise consistent with 6 firecrackers. Johnson stated he exited the establishment and observed ballistic damage to his vehicle. Johnson stated to officers that he was not involved in the incident, but that he was equipped with a firearm and has an LTC. Officer Jenner seized and secured the firearm, 9mm Glock, in Boston Police Mark Cruiser 1526 while officers were on scene. Officer McDonough obtained Johnson's LTC, license number 131157669 Alpha. A CJIS inquiry confirmed the license status and firearm ownership information. Officers observed ballistic damage to multiple areas of Mass Reg Mike Sierra Tango Alpha X-ray X-ray. Ballistic damage was observed on the passenger side front door, the passenger side front dashboard, and ballistic damage to the passenger side rear panel and gas cap cover. A fragment of a casing was found on the passenger floorboard. The passenger side window was spider webbed and shattered. Officers secured the area with crime scene tape. The Delta 912 Sergeant Sullivan arrived on scene. Sergeant Sullivan photographed the scene, and 8.357 casings were recovered in the area. Additionally, 1 bullet fragment was recovered from the front passenger side of the vehicle. Officer spoke with witness 2, Brendan Donovan, who stated he was with Johnson at El Jefe's when a group of females started fighting outside. Donovan stated he heard what he believed to be shots fired. Donovan stated he went outside with Johnson and believed the ballistic damage to Mass Reg and observed the ballistic damage to Mass Reg Mike Sierra Tango Alpha X-ray X-ray. Witness 3, Jose Amar Arellana Vasquez, stated he's an employee at El Jefe's and observed a group of females fighting outside of the establishment. Vasquez stated he went outside when he observed a black male with black dreads wearing a black t-shirt fire multiple gunshots. Vasquez was able to obtain a video of the incident via phone from an Uber driver who was on scene. Vasquez visually identified the suspect to Officer Enriquez, stating that the black male with the black shirt and dreads featured in the video was responsible for the shots fired. The shot spotter activation was recorded in the area of 280 Huntington Avenue, Boston. While in the area, officers observed video surveillance cameras in the area of 275 Huntington Ave, Playa Bowls, located at 277 Huntington Ave, and College Convenience, located at 281 Huntington Ave. While on scene, officers were approached by a female who stated she was involved in the fight outside of El Jefe's. The female identified as a victim of the incident, Ajla Omarovic, date of birth, July 20th, 97. A. Omarovic stated she had walked into El Jefe's with her cousin when an unknown black female shoved her. A. Omaric stated, "You didn't have to do that." The unknown female, accompanied by her friends, confronted A. Omarovic and stated, "I'll see you outside." A. Omarovic stated she did not think anything of the comment and eventually exited the establishment. A. Omarovic stated when she exited El Jefe's, multiple unidentified black females started to punch her and throw her to the ground. A. Omarovic stated when she was on the ground, the unknown female started to kick her, which caused her to lose consciousness. A. Omarovic stated she awoke to the unknown female still kicking her on the ground. Officers observed A. Omarovic to have swelling on her face with bruising under her left eye. Multiple scratches were observed along with a cut on her elbow. Omarovic stated she had pain along the right side of her body from being kicked while on the ground. A. Omarovic was able to recover her bag that she had lost on scene, but stated that she believed the unknown females took her wallet. A. Omarovic stated her cousin, Zuzana Omarovic, was on her way back to speak with officers. D. Overomic confirmed the details of the incident described by A. Omarovic. Boston EMS Ambulance 6 arrived on scene to evaluate A. Omarovic. A. Omarovic was transported to Mass General Hospital for further evaluation. Ballistic evidence was collected by Sergeant Sullivan and secured at District 4 in the gun locker. And that's the end of the report.
I'll be reading the supplemental report, sir. On Wednesday, May 31st, 2023, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD Licensed Premise Unit, responded to El Jefe's taqueria located at 269 Huntington Avenue. Detectives were there to speak to staff regarding the assault and battery incident that had occurred on May 28th, 2023, 232-041-687. Detectives spoke to the person in charge, Mr. Franley Ubri, who confirmed that he was aware of the incident. Mr. Ubri stated that D4 detectives had already contacted them and the establishment would be providing surveillance video to the investigators. As a result of the incident, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 040332 for assault battery, patron on patron, and assault by means of a dangerous weapon, firearm. Mr. Ubri signed for an accepted notice. That's all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shaw, Mr. Eller, would you like to address the alleged incident?
I guess the main thing I would just like to say is that as a result of this incident, we've brought on security from 11:30 until 3:30 every night. And there's a letter that the security company has issued to the board. I could read that letter into the board. It's short.
Thank you. I just received the letter as well. I'll make sure it's shared with the commissioners.
Okay. So,
thank you.
Yes.
Anything further, Mr. Shaw?
No.
I think we'll see if there are any questions from the board. Chairman Joyce.
When the fighting or the shoving started inside, what did your staff do?
Well, it wasn't a major incident. I mean, it was a busy night. There, the incident inside the restaurant, we didn't really observe it until we went and looked out at security. It wasn't a big issue inside the restaurant. We didn't realize something was happening until after they had got outside the restaurant.
Okay, so on this particular night, you had no security?
We did not. We haven't had security. We've been open in the 4 restaurants in the Boston area until 3 or 4 a.m. in the Boston Commons store until 2 a.m. And we've just never had incidents. It never seemed like there was something. We don't serve alcohol. There's not. But this incident, I guess, scared us, to be honest, and it's why we've secured a security for this store.
And is the security armed?
They can be armed, and we made the decision not to arm them. The services are the same. The Phoenix Protective Service is managed by a Boston police officer, Jason Penkathman. And there's the services they'll provide will be either armed or unarmed. And we made the decision to not have them armed at this point.
Okay. If that changes, you need to notify the board.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
No questions from me. No, thank you.
Have you considered getting cameras?
Oh, we have cameras. The restaurant is fully camered.
Were there cameras for the outside, pointing to the outside?
I believe the building they might have cameras. We don't have cameras from the store outside, but the building, I believe they might have some from the block. I could be wrong.
We can confirm that, Commissioner.
Thank you. Anything further from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you. Calling item number 7, Concord Entertainment Inc. doing business as Bill's Bar, the Lansdowne Pub located at 9 Lansdowne Street. Date of the incident, May 13th, 2023. Illegal drug use on premise, a reported roofie incident in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning again. Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee with us this morning. Katina Corapons from Alliance Group, Nelson Burns, who was the general manager at the time of the incident, Anthony Chuga, one of the managers as well, and Wayne Miller, who at the time of the incident was security and is now in management at the Alliance Group. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
William Gallagher.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Yeah, John Cosgrove and Jessica Murphy.
Great. Thank you all for being with us this morning. Could you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, you may please proceed with the police report.
Yes, good morning. I'll be reading a police report that was written by Officer Ryan Milliken. At about 3:48 p.m. on May 15th, 2023, Officer Milliken, assigned to the front desk officer, received a report at 650 Harrison Avenue. Officer Milliken received the report. The victim, later identified as John Cosgrove, date of birth 3/19/1989, and his girlfriend identified as Jessica Murphy, date of 5/1/1990. Murphy reported that he witnessed an unknown suspect open a pill capsule and pour an unknown white powdery substance into Cosgrove's beer while at 9 Lansdowne Street on May 13th, 2023 at about 11:30 p.m. Murphy reported that standing at the curved bar table area in the middle of the bar on the end closest to the entrance, Murphy reported the white powdery substance dissolved quickly in the beer. Murphy reported that the unknown suspect who poured the unknown powdery substance into Cosgrove's beer was a 20 to 30-year-old Hispanic female, approximately 5'2", dark brunette, shoulder-length hair. Murphy reported that the suspect was wearing a black blouse, jeans with a purse. Murphy reported the female suspect was accompanied by a 20 to 30-year-old Hispanic male, approximately 5'10". Murphy and Cosgrove did not have any further details about the male. Murphy reported both female and male suspects were standing directly across from Murphy and Cosgrove at the end of the curved bar table at the time of the incident. Upon Murphy witnessing the female suspect pour the white powdery substance in the beer, she informed Cosgrove of what had just occurred. Cosgrove never took a sip of the beer after the substance was placed in his drink. Cosgrove reported that he was originally confused and confronted the male suspect about what happened, thinking that the male suspect was the one who poured the unknown substance into his drink. Cosgrove reported that Lansdowne security was notified, but ended up kicking Murphy and Cosgrove out of the bar. Murphy reported that there was only a verbal dispute between all parties after the incident and did not escalate into a fight. District 4 detectives were notified. I did have the occasion to speak to Miss Murphy, and I went down there with Detective Hernandez, and we conducted a second follow-up, and my report reads as follows. On 5/30/2023, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, signed the licensed premise unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection of the Lansdowne Pub located at 9 Lansdowne Street. This inspection came about partly because of an incident that occurred on 5/13/2023 at 11:30 p.m. The incident was recorded on Boston Police Incident Report number 232037892. Victim Jessica Murphy and her boyfriend stated in the report filed at District 4, she observed an unknown female place a substance into her boyfriend's drink at Lansdowne Pub, 11:30 p.m. on 5/13. Ms. Murphy stated that both she and her boyfriend confronted the female with the group and then informed staff of the incident. Ms. Murphy went on to report that she was asked to leave the pub along with her boyfriend. Sergeant Gallagher made contact with Ms. Murphy, who was very upset. Lansdowne Pub that did nothing to investigate her claims and went one step further to remove her and her boyfriend from the premise. On the night of the 20th, Sergeant Gallagher spoke to the manager, Scott Miles. Mr. Miles was given a picture of Miss Murphy and her boyfriend as they appeared that evening by Sergeant Gallagher so as to assist in video search of the incident. As a result of this report, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a license premise inspection notice number 040328 to Lansdowne Pub for illegal drug use on premise, possible roofie incident. Mr. Scott Miles signed for and accepted the notice. Both and Sergeant Gallagher stressed the importance of investigating these claims and promptly alerting police. Mr. Miles stated he would speak to all staff members regarding this incident. And that's essentially it for my reports.
Thank you, Sergeant Gallagher. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yeah, if I may, Detective Gallagher, there's an internal report that would indicates that you had suggested to staff that you didn't believe these witnesses. Is that correct?
Sorry?
There was an internal report that suggested you told one of the staff members that you did not believe these two individuals.
That's false, sir.
Okay. Did the staff cooperate with you when you investigated?
They did some investigation, and I believe that I don't want to take their words out of them. They said that they might have come from another bar earlier in the evening, and they might have been watching them, but that other statement, I don't know where that came from. That's not something I would say.
Okay.
I have no record of that here in my reports.
Your report was done basically a week after the incident is alleged to have occurred?
Yeah, so we were on days off, and we had to catch up to them when they were open.
Yeah. Understood. And this originated as what you would call a walk-in to, it was District 4, I guess.
That's correct,
In the
sir.
South End. So on the 13th, it's alleged to have happened. On the 15th, these individuals walked into District 4 and made these allegations. And then on the 20th, you went over to follow up.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And your violation inspection report indicates that management cooperated. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, they did.
Okay. And were you aware of reports that these individuals had been elsewhere on Lansdowne Street that night?
That's what they told me, sir. I had talked to Mr. Milliken a couple times, and he had stated that they might have been down the House of Blues beforehand, but that's not really the issue here. The issue is the substance that was put in the drink.
And just with regard to the substance, taken in the light most favorable to the complainants here, they observed a powder poured into a beer, and that beer was never consumed.
That's correct, sir.
That's correct. Okay. And were you aware that in addition to the Hispanic, the described as Hispanic individuals that they indicated had done this, that they later pointed out an Asian group of people and suggested they had done it?
I was told that as well, sir, but I just went with what was on the report.
Okay.
That was what was first reported.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant Detective. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Madam Chair, if I may question Mr. Miller. Ma'am, you're muted. Madam Chair.
Mr. Miller, sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Wayne, are you here with, yeah, there he is. Mr.
Yes.
Miller, you've been sworn in. Just state your full name for the record and your responsibilities at the licensed premise on the night in question.
My name is Wayne Miller, and at the time I was a security guard. I was a door security.
Okay. And did this incident or did an incident concerning an alleged roofie incident come to your attention that night?
Yes, it did. We was approached by two people and told that their drinks had been roofied.
Is it the two people who are with us this morning, Mr. Cosgrove and Ms. Murphy?
I believe so.
Okay. Right. And as a result of being told that, what did you do?
Me and the person I was working with that night, Jonathan Price, who no longer works with us, we followed the two people in. We told them to point out the people, and first they pointed at a group of Hispanic people. Then they pointed out a group of older Asian American looking people, and then we started asking them to pretty much produce the drink, and we was with them for about a half hour, and no drink was produced. They wasn't able to point out a person who supposedly put something in their drink, and at that point it just became, like we was wondering what was going on. It was confusing.
And during that period when you were inquiring with these two people as to who might have done this, were there did other patrons complain to you about Mr. Cosgrove and Ms. Murphy?
Yeah, random people, when they seen us in the crowd with Ms. Cosgrove and Mrs. Murphy, stepped out and pretty much let us know, like they were asking us for drugs, and
that the two individuals, Cosgrove and Murphy, were asking other patrons for drugs?
They was looking for drugs, yeah.
And is there anything else that was unusual about this couple, Ms. Murphy and Mr. Cosgrove?
My first encounter with Miss Murphy and Mr. Cosgrove in the night, it was earlier in the day. I was working the door at Bill's at the time, and I believe that they were looking for a lighter, and the male said, if any of you guys got a lighter, my girl will show you her breasts. And before anyone can even get out a lighter, her breasts were out. So I ended up throwing him a lighter and just letting him know, like, you don't have to do that, bro. It's just a lighter. And yeah, that's how my memory of them started.
Okay,
That was
I'm sorry, that was earlier in the day.
Yeah, around like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
So when you saw them later, you recognized them, did you?
Yeah. And yeah, they asked to come in, and they didn't seem intoxicated. So they said they have been kicked out of House of Blues for a similar situation. And I just told them, keep your clothes on, and you'll be all right.
And then is it subsequent to that this allegation of being roofied came to your attention?
I don't know if it was subsequent, but I know it happened after. So I would say that it was because of that, but I know that the breast flashing was something random as heck. So.
Okay. But it was after all of that occurred that this incident with the roofie came to your attention.
Exactly.
Okay. And so did you take their report and did you then walk with them around the establishment to see if they could point out who had done this to them?
Yes, we did. We was with them for about a half hour. We had notified management. Management came down and talked to us right after.
Okay. So in your opinion, did you do everything you could to assist them in terms of finding out what had happened on the night in question?
And yeah, everything possible in that moment. We questioned people in the area. We questioned the two groups of people that they pointed out. The drink wasn't produced. So we did everything we could, and then just felt like, maybe this was just a little bit more than what's being said. So.
And then did you, at some point, did you and other staff determine that it was probably time for these people to leave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you then ask them to leave?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And did they leave?
Yes.
Okay. And was Mr. Burns there that evening?
Yes, I was up in the office.
Okay. May I inquire of Mr. Burns, Madam Chair? Okay. Mr. Burns, again, you've been sworn. Just identify yourself for the record and tell the board what your responsibilities were on the night in question.
Nelson Burns, general manager. I was roaming manager that night, so up in the office doing financial stuff and going and checking on both the doors periodically and inside and outside of the restaurant.
And did this incident come to your attention?
It did. They were already gone when I came downstairs. It had investigated and they had already left the premises.
Okay. And did you do any follow-up investigation with your staff?
Yes, I asked them what had occurred, and they had told me the whole sequence of events from the beginning of the day, earlier in the day, to then we talked to someone from the House of Blues, and yeah, I got the whole story of what had happened, and I really didn't think much of it. They left, and then I got the summons a few days later.
Okay. In going over the incident with your staff, what was your conclusion of what occurred that night?
It was very confusing because they said it was a male and then a female. It went back and forth between sexes and different groups of people, and it seemed very very strange, the whole situation.
Okay. And was there any further follow-up done by you or the staff?
We went on camera and tried to find if we could see the powder going in to the drink, but it was just a lot of people in a circle where they were. So you couldn't really, it was just, they were in like a crowd, like a sea of people basically. So I could not see anything.
Okay.
Definitely not powder going into a drink. And I asked for the drink from the door staff, and they told me that they couldn't produce the drink. It was not produced. So I would have had it tested, obviously, to make sure that, there were not drugs in the drink.
So when you say they did not produce it, they being Ms. Murphy and Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
And is your belief that they were asked to produce it and couldn't produce it?
That's what I was told, yes.
Okay. And that's consistent with what Wayne Miller just testified to. Is that correct,
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
You asked them to produce it and they did not or could not?
Yes.
Okay. Right. And when you asked them to leave, were they simply escorted out? They were just asked to leave and they complied and left. Is that about it?
Yes.
Okay. And the next thing anybody knew, it was about a week later when Detective Gallagher showed up.
Yes. Didn't hear anything the day after. It was like a week later.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I don't know, Ms. Corpines, were you, as part of your follow-up, was there any tape of the incident preserved?
Unfortunately, no. When this was brought to my attention, Mr. Burns had said that they had gone through the surveillance, and because it was so dark, it was very difficult to see anything that night, let alone a person opening a capsule and pouring white powdery substance into a drink.
Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. The chair, the board members of the board may have some questions for you folks, so please stand by.
Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions for the licensee at this time, or would you like to hear from Mr. Cosgrove and Ms. Murphy first?
I have no questions for the licensee.
Great. Mr. Cosgrove, Ms. Murphy, is there any testimony you would like to provide to the board at this time?
Yes. So on that night, we did tell the staff, and he did come with us. We went to the same group of people. The woman who poured, that my wife said she poured into the substance, was still there. She was like a deer in headlights. She was very shook. The guy disappeared from the group. We never pointed out two different groups. It was just one group.
One group.
And then we were asked to leave. We were not with the security staff for half an hour.
We couldn't produce the drink because when we were talking to the security guard about what happened, we indicated that when John originally had thought that it was the guy that did it, he actually shoved the drink in his face.
Pushed it into.
And so we
He took
didn't,
it, so.
we didn't like keep it with us, which is what we should have done.
But now we know.
But there was no discrepancy in the group of people. They asked me to describe what they looked like race-wise, and I couldn't tell them definitively what their race was. And I think that may be why they got confused about multiple groups. But I can identify the girl that did it, and we did identify the girl in the bar with the security.
Exact person.
He was looking back and forth at each party, but didn't know what to do and told us to leave.
And also, when we went into the police station, we were told that the detective was going to review the tape and not the actual manager of the bar.
And now when we emailed to follow up about the investigation of the video footage, they said that it was inconclusive, but our understanding though was that the sergeant was going to be reviewing it, not that manager.
Yeah.
So that just seems
biased.
Because why would they produce it? You know, of course it will be gone.
Thank you. We'll turn it to the board to see if there are any questions. Madam Chair, any questions for the licensee, Sergeant Gallagher, or Mr. Cosgrove or Ms. Murphy about the incident?
So please explain to me what happened to the video. And
I reviewed the video, and it was just, they were in a big crowd of people and you couldn't see anything. There was no.
So it was recorded over?
Yes, I could not see anything. There was nothing there. I went back and checked and double checked, and we could not see anything.
You didn't think this kind of alleged incident would have required like a follow-up investigation and perhaps save the video?
Ma'am, if I could just indicate, Madam
Wondering,
Chair,
like
it
if
was
you've been notified that there was a potential roofing incident.
a week later. It was a week later before they were notified. They simply escorted these two people out with no incident whatsoever. No complaint made on the night in question. Complaint made 48 hours later at a police station, which we don't learn until a week later. So there's kind of very little that they could do given the passage of time. And the concerns about who reviewed the tape. I mean, Sergeant Gallagher, I presume, would have asked for it if he desired to see it, or I don't know that. But as to what we did, I mean, I think it was totally appropriate in the circumstances. I mean, the reports indicate that they pointed out multiple people, couldn't identify anyone in particular, didn't have anything to show in terms of the drink.
Okay.
And
could you forward your internal reports to the board?
I'm sorry?
Could you please forward the internal reports to the board that you referenced at the beginning of the hearing?
Yes, be happy to.
Okay. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
My question is, considering the ongoing concern of this board regarding potential spiked drink incidents, why weren't the police called immediately?
Well, I mean, I think the answer is the staff. I think you heard them this morning. They were with these people, walked around the entire place with them to find out what had happened. And nothing was indicated to the staff that would say that's the person who did it. There was no way to back up what these individuals said. There was no powder, there was no drink, and there was an inability to identify anybody who had done
We
this.
brought the security directly to the lady.
Yeah,
who
but
was
my
supposed to-
question is not, you know, what the security could ascertain. It's why weren't the police called immediately upon hearing that a drink might have been spiked?
I mean, the only thing I can tell you, Commissioner.
For me, this is a matter for the police, not for Bill's Bar security.
Mhm. It just indicates on the inspection notice that the police were called. Presumably, I don't know whether that means from
The
the.
police
walk-in
weren't called
next-
that night. We know that, Attorney Quilty.
I'm sorry?
The police weren't called that night. We know that, right?
Well, I don't know that. I mean, we know these people walked into the police station.
Did Bill's Bar call the police that night?
I do not know.
Does anyone with Bill's Bar know the answer to that question?
The police were not called.
Thank you.
And in the future, I will 1000% call the police. If any,
Yeah, I mean, my concern is that it's not about the future, that, you know, this board, the Boston Police have issued advisories regarding this issue specifically. I think on the night in question, it would have been apparent that this is a matter for the Boston Police, not for your security staff.
I just have to respond and say, this is not a situation where they ignored something. They literally walked around the establishment with these two individuals, with the security staff, and were with them by Mr. Miller's testimony half an hour. And
It was less
unfortunately,
than 5 minutes, and we brought
At the
security
time this was
staff
over,
directly
I'd let you
to the
speak,
lady
so why don't you
who.
let me speak?
Okay, I'm gonna jump
fell
in.
the drink,
I'm gonna
so-
jump in here. I want Commissioner Curran asked a good question about the advisories that this board has put out and Boston Police has put out. Each and every one of those advisories say that you should call the police. You did not call the police, is what you're testifying to tonight, correct? Today?
And is there?
I don't
is
want
there
an
any-
explanation as to what you did do, but I want to know, did you call the police? Just want to get that on the record.
I think we just suggested that the police were not called.
Okay, good.
And I think the reason why.
Thank you.
Is because.
I don't
quite frankly,
care
they
about the
didn't believe
reason.
these-
Thank
they
you.
didn't believe these
Thank
people
you.
that this had happened.
Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, do you have
Made
any
that clear.
questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think along the lines of what the other commissioners have been saying, once there has been an accusation, you know, if there is any camera footage, it is not up to the bar owners or the managers, whether that is of quality. It is up to the police and it's up to the licensing board to review. So going forward, if there's even a question, even like scintilla of suspicion, preserve the video.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything further from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement and we will await the submission of the internal report from the date of the incident.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 8, 280 Friend Street Fee LLC, doing business as a Hotel Indigo Boston, located at 280 Friend Street. Date of the incident, May 29th, 2023. Overcrowding, capacity 44, 102 counted patrons in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.03J and 1.06A and F. Who is present on behalf of the licensee? Oh, Attorney Malone, you're on mute right now. Just asked you to unmute.
Trish Malone representing 280 Friend Street Fee LLC, doing business as Indigo Hotel. And with me today, I have Mr. George Vinyl Jr., who's the manager of record.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am Detective Hernandez.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Detective Hernandez, you can please proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'll be reading from a police report which Sergeant Detective Gallagher wrote on 5/29/2023. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to the licensed premise unit accompanied by BPD A1 detectives, Sergeant Detective Salucci, Detective Walsh, Keneally, conducted a licensed premise inspection of Blake's at 208 Friend Street. Inside the premise, detectives observed the bar to be quite crowded, with it difficult to move about. Thinking that the premise had exceeded its occupant load, Sergeant Detective Gallagher conducted a mechanical count, which resulted in 102 persons being counted. The premises capacity listed on the common victual license is set at 44. Detectives made contact with the manager, George Vinyl, and informed him of their findings. Mr. Vinyl stated that he was overwhelmed by the numbers of people who showed up for the Celtics Heat game. Detectives informed Mr. Vinyl to cease admitting patrons until he reached his posted capacity. As a result of what was observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a license premise inspection notice 040333 to Blake's for overcrowding 102 found on mechanical count capacity of 44. Mr. George will now sign for and accept the notice. That's all.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Attorney Malone, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, Detective Hernandez, were you there with, you were there with Sergeant Detective Gallagher?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did, once you found Mr. Vinyl was on the premises, did he cooperate with the Boston Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and can you tell me what time of evening this was?
Looks like reported time 21:59, so like about 10 o'clock.
So this is fairly, a little bit early in the evening for the Celtics game? I mean, it's still going on. It's not, it hasn't ended yet.
Correct. The game is still going on there.
Okay. And have you had any, have you since been back to the licensed premises?
There, yes, to get them to sign
Okay.
for the notice.
Okay. And was there, since that time, has there been any incidents of overcrowding?
There's really not much going on at the garden. It wasn't then, so no.
Okay. And at the time of the incident, had there been a fan, was one of the streets or several of the streets closed off that evening for kind of like a fan event of the Boston Celtics for people to come and just kind of wander down one of the streets?
I believe there was something going on Canal Street.
Okay. And this premises is located inside the Indigo Hotel, correct? And not the Holiday Inn Express? Yes?
It's located in the hotel, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just brought that up, members of the board, only because it just say it's the Holiday Inn Express, and actually it's been the Indigo Hotel since 2016. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware we're talking about the same premises. Thank you for your time, Detective. Okay, yeah. Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, I think what happened that night was Mr. Vinyl and his staff underestimated not only the crowd surge, but also the time that there would be a need for additional staff. Mr. Vinyl had called staff in that evening, later that evening in post-game, not recognizing that pre-game he would have that issue. Obviously, he made a mistake. I've spoken to the licensee to let him know that a licensed venue that is so close to a sporting event center, as well as a concert venue, needs to be extremely knowledgeable about the type of crowd that different games and different concerts actually bring to the area. So I'm trying to work with the staff to understand how that works. Mr. Vinyl has put in several procedures. I think that will help with the overcrowding, and he is here today and he can briefly state the new procedures in place, and he can also answer any questions that the board may have of him. Mr. Vinyl?
Thanks, Attorney Malone. Just as was said, we did adapt in the moment. We called extra staff on and shut a second door down so that there would be no entrance in that moment. It was an atypical crowd. Typically, we see a bit of a push before the game, and it kind of clears out. And then after the game, and we're always prepared for that. Adapting moving forward, we're in communication with the Boston Garden staff to monitor the amount of foot traffic that will be coming from the venue itself, but also any other events that might cause patrons to come toward our area. We are alert to having presence at both doors, as we have one from the side street and one from the hotel. And in the event that there is going to be anticipated higher volume of foot traffic, we shut the second door down. And all staff is trained to keep monitoring flow of traffic. Also, supervisors have been given the crowd manager safety course as well, just as a refresher to be alert to the needs that we have.
Mr. Vinyl, do all of the door staff have clickers or whatever?
Yes, electronic clickers.
So on that night, what happened? Can you kind of explain why there was that?
Sure. Again, it was a very atypical evening game 7 for the Celtics versus Heat. There hadn't been that foot traffic during the game at all. A lot of patrons came to the Boston Garden area to just be a part of the environment rather than going to the game. And it's a new experience for us. It's not an excuse. And we're ready for it moving forward. But this was where people were coming not to go to the Garden, which is what we usually get as a guest space, but it was to come and participate, watch the game. So that's really what the crowd was. So we adapted in the moment. We got to a good level, and then we were able to control the flow of traffic for the post game. And our kitchen is open until 1 a.m. So a lot of people do come in to dine after the games too. So that's kind of for the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Vinyl. Does the board have any questions?
When you said you called in additional staff, what is your regular staffing model for a Celtics game compared to this extra staff you're calling in?
Sure. Typically, we have one doorman on for the post game for the late night evening portion to make sure that as the venue lets out, we can keep track of that. In that moment, because of the surge of people that we had, I called one door staff on early and then a second to arrive for the post game as well, so they could monitor both doors.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Carmen, Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
None for me, thank you.
None from me. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Calling item number 9, Patina Boss LLC, doing business as Banners Kitchen and Tap and Hub Hall, featuring Momo-san Ramen by Morimoto, located at 80 to 82 Causeway Street. Date of the incident, May 29th, 2023. Service of more than 2 drinks to a patron at a time, 4 drinks in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Secretary Green. Commissioners Tom Miller from McDermott, Quilty Miller in Boston on behalf of the licensee. I'm joined by Nick Morins, the general manager of the licensed premise, who was also there on that evening.
Thank you.
Good morning.
On behalf of the Boston Police Department.
William Gallagher.
Thank you, Sergeant Gallagher. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective Hernandez, if needed.
Thank you very much. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you, Sergeant Detective Gallagher. If you could please proceed with the police report.
Yes, good morning. On 5/29/2023 at 7:30 p.m., Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to licensed premise unit, along with detectives assigned to Area A1, Sergeant Detectives Salucci, Keneally, Walsh, and McDonald, conducted a licensed premise inspection of Banners Kitchen and Tap at 80 Causeway Street. Detectives' attention was drawn to the premise because of loud amplified DJ music observed operating through the open window of the first floor. Inside the premise, detectives observed the DJ to be set up with the speaker facing toward the street out to the open window. Detectives met the manager, Nick Munoz, and questioned the DJ's positioning as if he was performing for the crowds waiting to enter the garden. As Sergeant Detective Gallagher and Mr. Munoz were making their way to the location where the entertainment license was kept, they passed a male patron carrying 4 alcoholic drinks away from the bar back into the crowd of patrons. Sergeant Detective Gallagher pointed this male out to Mr. Munoz, who stated that he would speak to his bartenders. As a result of the inspection, Mr. Munoz repositioned the DJ speakers and closed the open windows to prohibit the amplified music carrying out to the street. In addition, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a licensed premise inspection notice number 040335 to Banners Kitchen and Tap for service of more than 2 alcoholic drinks to a patron at a time, which is under the Mass Prohibited Practices. Mr. Nick Munoz signed for and accepted the notice. Those are the facts of that evening.
Thank you, Sergeant Detective Gallagher. We have a supplemental as well. Were you going to read that in?
I don't have that, sir. There was no violation issue. That was us delivering the notice. We found a manager that did not sign for it, and we had some correspondence with one of the bartenders, which was kind of concerning because it made it appear that as if a patron walked up to the bar with another person's ID, that they could purchase 4 drinks with only one person there. And we had questioned that practice, and I think it's been addressed. There was no violation issued. It was just a little conversation we had when we issued the notice. That's it.
Thank you, Sergeant Detective Gallagher. Attorney Miller, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you, Secretary Green. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, just to begin with, when you arrived to deal with the sound system issue, were the staff, managers, and Mr. Marins cooperative with you?
Yes, sir, they were.
Thank you. And when you observed the patron carrying those 4 beverages, did you stop to determine if all 4 beverages were in fact alcoholic, or could they have been a mix of alcoholic, non-alcoholic?
They appeared to be alcoholic. They weren't in the tall glass that you would see the Coca-Cola in. They were in a short, like rocks type glass with ice and, you know, cocktail stirrers. But they did not appear to be Coca-Cola, sir.
Thank you, Sergeant Gallagher. Madam Chair, first to address the issue that precipitated the hearing. At the time of the incident, the licensee was using the same cups at that time for large, busy days as for alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks. When the management on staff, Mr. Marins, and the detectives observed those person carrying the 4 cups, they weren't able to easily identify what was in those cups at that time. They may have been alcoholic, they may not have. The fact that this was Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, it was an incredibly busy day. The manager on staff at the time wasn't able to, identify the bartender who served those drinks and follow up to see, regardless of how they, either way, what they were, and to take immediate remedial training on the spot for the rest of that night. Since that time, and since the second incident, they have again reiterated to staff that you can only serve 2 alcoholic beverages to 1 person at any one time. If someone is ordering more than 2 beverages, there must be the appropriate amount of people. If they're ordering 6 drinks, 3 people need to be there. If they're ordering 4 drinks, 2 people need to be there. They've reiterated that service. Additionally, they have also brought in different beverage cups for alcoholic versus non-alcoholic drinks, so it is easily identifiable for all patrons, staff, anybody to determine what is and what isn't alcoholic. To address the second issue, we can only, apologize again to the board for that incident. The manager, the supervisor on staff that night, more or less didn't fully understand what was happening. He thought he was possibly receiving a citation for a night he wasn't there. He didn't. So since that time, Nick and the management staff of Banners have gone over and reiterated how to address these issues going forward when BPD shows up, both to staff and management. They have also again reiterated the policy of you can only serve 2 drinks to 1 person. Doesn't matter how many IDs they're holding. Again, we apologize for the second incident, and we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
My concerns are with the training, and I take issue with the fact that, you're questioning whether or not those are alcoholic drinks. Regardless, the new rule should be that you need to have 2 people up there when you're ordering 4 drinks. I really think that if your bartenders are questioning whether or not they could do that with another ID being served, you should really focus on retraining. No one should question that at all. And
yes, Madam Chair.
And every single person that works for you, when the Boston police come in, they should be cooperative, and not signing whether or not he was working that night could be seen as not cooperating with Boston police. Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
None for me. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement as well.
Thank you.
Good time.
Thank you. Calling item number 10, Tall Ship Restaurant LLC located at 1 East Pier Drive in East Boston, date of the incident, May 13th, 2023. Assault and battery, patron on premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Leslie Delaney Hopkins with the law firm of Prince Lobel. With me today is Marco Carbajal, who is manager on duty that evening, and Charlie Warner, the owner and operator of the Tall Ship.
Morning, Madam Chair. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective William Gallagher.
Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective Eddie Hernandez.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, you may please proceed.
Yes, good morning. I'll be reading from three incident reports. The first one is a Massachusetts State Police report. The premise does sit on Massport property, and the primary police force for this is the Mass State Police. So I'll be reading a report from Trooper Ryan M. Fanning. On Saturday, May 13th, 2023, I, Trooper Ryan Fanning, assigned to Troop F, Logan Airport, was on patrol in Sector E. At approximately 2100 hours while on patrol at the Tall Ship, I was informed through security that a fight had broken out. I followed security for Tall Ship and found the victim, Benjamin Felipe, with a laceration to his right eyebrow and a chipped tooth and blood on his face. Multiple descriptions were given of who the aggressor was, but not fully matched. Another suspect who stated he was trying to break up a fight had blood in his hands and a laceration on his knuckle. Both parties were transported by EFs. Footage of scene is available through the Tall Ship security. The next Boston incident report would be myself and Detective Hernandez were on scene shortly thereafter on an unrelated matter. My report reads on 5/13/2023 at about 9:45 p.m. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to Licensed Premise Unit were responding to a past complaint of loud music at the Tall Ship, and a butter had called the mayor's office over the weekend of 5/6 and 5/7 to complain about live performance that had taken place. As detectives were making their way here to the Tall Ship, they observed a contingent of Mass State Police officers involved in a conversation with themselves. Detectives approached the group of troopers and inquired as if anything was going on. MSP Sergeant Stephen Lopes reported to BPD detectives that had dispatched the Tall Ship for the report of a fight. Tall Ship sits on Massport property. Sergeant Lopes then escorted Sergeant Detective Gallagher, Detective Hernandez over to Trooper Ryan Fanning, who was initially flagged down by Tall Ship security. Trooper Fanning informed detectives that he would be carrying the report and would provide them with a copy once completed. Boston Police Department received a copy of the report on 5/30/2023. Prior to detectives completing their inspection of the 13th, they spoke to Tall Ship manager Paul Gawowski, who stated that he was aware of the fight and he would save any and all video evidence that was recovered. BPD detectives will be following up with a licensed premise inspection notice detailing Mass State Trooper Fanning's report, name B, patron on patron. The last report is mine. It's for the LPV, and it reads as follows. On 5/31/2023 at 9:47 p.m., Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to Licensed Premise Unit responded to the Tall Ship, 1 East Pier Drive, to conduct a licensed premise inspection. Inspection came about because of an assault and battery, patron on patron, that took place on the Tall Ship at about 9 p.m. on 5/13/2023. Detectives had been there just after the incident had taken place. Primary responding police agency for the assault was the Mass State Police. Detectives made up with Mass State Police Sergeant Stephen Lopes, Trooper Fanning at the Tall Ship. Trooper Fanning was the author of Mass State Police Report number 23. 1-020131 detailing the incident. BPD officers were forwarded the report, which will be attached to this inspection. 5/31 detectives, licensed unit spoke with the manager, Herman Masolbe, who stated that he was aware of the incident
and will contact the security company that oversees the cameras. As a result, what had taken place on the 13th, Sergeant Gallagher issued a license premise inspection notice number 040337 to the Tall Ship for assault and battery, patron on premise. Mr. Herman Masolbe signed for and accepted the notice. Those are the reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Detective. Attorney Hawkins, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, thank you very much. If I may, Sergeant Detective, just a couple of questions. Were you
Sure.
present for the actual incident itself?
No,
So you do not have any personal knowledge of the incident itself.
no.
And when you were present, was the licensee cooperative?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you returned to issue the license premise notice, was the licensee cooperative?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Detective. No additional questions. If I may, Mr. Carvala, I'm going to ask you several questions.
Yes, sure.
Could you please inform the board how long you have been working for Navy Yard Hospitality?
About 7 years and 3 years total of the tall ship.
Thank you very much. And you were present for the incident?
I was present, yes, I was the manager on duty.
Great. And was there security present at the tall ship that day?
16 total security, plus the state police detail.
And that's your full security team, 16?
Yes,
You're fully staffed.
yes, we're full staff, correct.
Thank you. In your own words, could you please describe to the board what happened that day?
Yes, I was radio over the phone that our fight was broken down from the main bar. I was 2 guys watching video, a boxing video, and then a third party showed up and then was bothering. And so they started arguing, verbal arguing. And then next thing you know, the first people that were watching the video turned around and this threw a couple punches. After that, security was flagged down. We broke down the fight and we escorted all the police out, and then we called the state police.
Okay, so there was a state police detail on premise for the incident, and that's who you initially flagged down?
Yes.
And was there anything that occurred between the patrons besides, you said they were speaking to each other, but anything physical before the punch was thrown?
No, before, no, it just started verbally.
And how long did that verbal exchange last?
About 5 seconds. It wasn't that long.
And how long from the physical altercation until the patrons were separated? How long did that take?
It was very quick. It was like 10 to 15 seconds.
And did you actually retain the aggressor in the situation?
Yes, so I was flagged down by the security team. We noticed the aggressor, and then after that, we just tossed it over to state police.
And that is not actually reflected in the police report, but you did identify the aggressor, and the state police did approach him.
Right, he had a cut on his hand, and we told the state police, and they took it from there.
Great. And did any of the parties involved appear intoxicated leading up to the incident?
Not at all.
And have you ever seen any of these parties back at the tall ship subsequently?
No.
And to your knowledge, have the police contacted you or any other tall ship employee subsequently regarding this incident?
After that incident, no, but the last thing I got from Sergeant Gallagher was just a notice for the hearing that I personally signed myself.
Great, thank you very much. Just a couple of questions for Mr. Larner. Mr. Larner, are there security cameras at the tall ship?
Yes, there are.
How many approximately?
We try to cover the entire property. I believe there's close to 25 cameras.
Thank you. And do these cameras retain footage?
Yes, they do.
And on the night of the incident in question, was that footage retained?
Unfortunately, it was the start of the season and we had a camera issue going from when the tall ship was closed down for the winter. So we had camera issues. So there was not camera footage of this fight, even though we have cameras and we should have recordings for everything. We do not have a recording from this night.
And what is your policy for retaining footage on the cameras?
So all of our camera footage has 60 days. It goes up into a cloud. It's a cloud-based saving system, and it retains for 60 days. And we can access that. We have a security team offsite that can access it at any time. So once this incident happened, we then went into the system and realized that there were some cameras that the majority of our cameras were frozen and not actually recording anything.
But that's been fixed since this incident.
That was immediately fixed, and it is currently active and working right now.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, one, we apologize for the security footage not being available. That was immediately rectified. We do believe that this was an incident that was not foreseeable. It began as a verbal exchange over mixed martial arts or boxing, whatever these gentlemen were watching, and very quickly escalated. The security staff immediately flagged, separated the patrons, flagged down the state trooper who was there on detail. We always have a detail at the tall ship. And then called EMS to request an ambulance. Again, this was completely in compliance with their policies and procedures regarding security and de-escalation. And we're happy to answer any additional questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
No questions for me. Thank you.
And none for me, thanks.
Thank you. In that case, the board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those are all the items before the board this morning. That will adjourn this morning's hearing. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.